There are certain laws of wealth as timeless as gravity itself, invisible to the eye, yet they govern the destiny of every man and woman who obeys them. The difference between those who live in quiet frustration and those who walk in quiet prosperity lies not in luck, inheritance, or chance, but in understanding and applying these laws. The simple, disciplined rules that build wealth from the inside out. The first rule begins in the mind: think abundantly, not scarcely. Most people believe wealth is something to chase, a prize reserved for the few. Yet the truth is that abundance begins with an idea, the belief that the world is filled with opportunity and that your thoughts are magnets drawing those opportunities toward you. If you think in terms of lack, you attract limitation. But when your mind is filled with expectancy, gratitude, and vision, you naturally attract the resources to match it. You cannot become rich thinking like the poor. You must first learn to see abundance everywhere, in every challenge, every idea, every new day. The second rule is to pay yourself first. Every time you earn, set aside a portion that belongs to you and your future. Most people work all their lives for others, for landlords, banks, merchants, taxes, and forget to pay themselves. Yet wealth is built not by the amount earned, but by the amount kept and multiplied. No matter how little you begin with, discipline is the seed of independence. Start small, but start today. You are planting the roots of financial freedom. The third rule is simple but rare: control your spending. The human desire to possess more than we need has ruined more fortunes than poverty ever could. When you master your wants, you master your wealth. Every dollar you do not waste becomes a soldier working for your future. The wise person lives slightly beneath their means, not because they must, but because they choose to. It is not sacrifice, it is strategy. The fourth rule is to invest in growth, in yourself, your skills, and the opportunities that multiply your efforts. The safest investment is in your own ability to think, create, and serve. The wealthiest people are those who never stop learning. They read, listen, observe, and apply. They turn every experience into wisdom and every mistake into tuition. Then they invest their time, energy, and money into things that yield more over time, not quick gains, but steady growth. The fifth rule warns: avoid debt like a trap. Debt is the enemy of freedom. It lures you with comfort today, but chains you tomorrow. It is the illusion of wealth without the foundation of it. When you owe, you serve another master. But when you are free from debt, your earnings become your own. Your choices, your time, your peace of mind. True prosperity begins the moment you owe nothing and need nothing to feel content. And the sixth rule, the one that gives all others meaning, is to let money serve purpose, not ego. Wealth that serves only pride is shallow and restless. But wealth that serves purpose becomes a force for good, for your family, your community, your world. Money is a servant, never a master. Use it to create, to uplift, to build, and to bring peace, not noise. Wealth is not built in a day. It is built in the decisions you make daily. Whether you are 18 or 80, the rules are the same. The sooner you begin, the sooner they begin working for you. There is no secret, no magic, only cause and effect. Plant the right causes, and wealth will follow as surely as dawn follows the night. The foundation of wealth begins long before a single coin is saved or a dollar is earned. It begins in the mind. Everything that eventually becomes visible in our outer world first takes shape in our inner one. The thoughts we nurture daily become the architects of our destiny, and the wealth we experience in life is the natural extension of the wealth we carry within. To think abundantly is to recognize that the universe operates on a principle of endless supply, not scarcity. Opportunity is not limited to a chosen few. It flows freely to all who are prepared to receive it. Yet most people never realize this because they spend their lives thinking small, seeing only what they lack instead of what they can create. They see others succeed and believe fortune has favored them, not realizing that the same power lies dormant within their own minds, waiting to be awakened. To think abundantly is to understand that success is not a matter of luck but of law. The person who believes in abundance sees potential where others see difficulty. He looks at the same landscape as everyone else, but his vision is guided by possibility, not fear. While others wait for conditions to change, he changes himself and watches the world respond in kind. The mind that dwells on lack creates limitation. The mind that dwells on possibility draws prosperity. Thoughts are magnetic. They attract people, circumstances, and opportunities of a similar nature. When your dominant thoughts are of growth, contribution, and abundance, your environment begins to reflect those thoughts like a mirror. Life becomes not a struggle for survival, but a creative process of unfolding potential. There is a profound truth that governs all prosperity. You cannot rise higher in life than you rise in your own thinking. The person who believes he is limited, who constantly focuses on what is missing, will always find evidence to support that belief. But the one who believes that the world is filled with opportunity, that success is abundant and accessible, will naturally attract circumstances that prove him right. This is not mere philosophy. It is the working principle behind every achievement, every innovation, every fortune ever built. The wealthy think in terms of abundance not because they are rich. They are rich because they think in terms of abundance. To think abundantly does not mean to live in fantasy or to deny reality. It means to see beyond immediate conditions and to hold a vision of what can be created. The person who cultivates an abundant mindset looks at every obstacle and asks, "What can I learn from this? How can I turn this into something valuable?" He knows that ideas are the real currency of the universe, and that his capacity to think clearly, optimistically, and creatively is worth more than any material possession. The poor in spirit see a closed door and stop. The abundant thinker finds a window, builds a ladder, or creates a new door altogether. That is the power of perception. Wealth begins the moment you decide to look at the world through the lens of possibility rather than limitation. When you think abundantly, you stop competing and start creating. Competition is born from the belief that there is not enough to go around, that someone else's gain must mean your loss. But creation operates on a higher level of consciousness. When you create value, when you use your mind to serve others and to solve problems, you tap into the infinite supply that surrounds you. You stop worrying about what others are doing because you know that the universe rewards contribution, not comparison. The person who spends his energy comparing himself to others will always feel behind. But the one who invests that same energy in creating, learning, and improving will find himself moving steadily toward abundance. Thinking abundantly also transforms the way you see yourself. You begin to realize that you are not a victim of circumstance, but a creator of it. Your thoughts, habits, and actions are not random. They are the blueprint of your future. When you fill your mind with positive expectation and disciplined thought, you set in motion a chain of events that move you toward your goals. You attract people and opportunities aligned with your dominant mental state. The mind that expects good inevitably finds it, because it is tuned to recognize it even in the smallest signs. And just as a gardener knows that what he plants today will grow tomorrow, the thinker who sows thoughts of abundance will eventually harvest prosperity in due season. To think abundantly requires faith, not in chance but in the power of thought itself. It means trusting that every idea, every effort, every seed of progress will bear fruit when nurtured with persistence and patience. The abundance thinker does not quit when results are delayed. He knows that everything of value takes time to mature. He looks at time as an ally, not an enemy, because he understands that growth is a process. Each day spent thinking constructively, each decision made with optimism, builds the invisible structure of success. Wealth does not arrive all at once. It accumulates like drops of water filling a vessel until one day the vessel overflows. When you train your mind to think abundantly, gratitude becomes your natural state. You begin to notice the opportunities, blessings, and resources that were always around you, but went unseen while you were focused on lack. Gratitude expands awareness. It multiplies what you appreciate. The more thankful you are, the more reasons life gives you to be thankful for. You realize that wealth is not just measured in money, but in peace, purpose, relationships, and freedom. This awareness changes your entire approach to living. Instead of chasing wealth, you begin to attract it. Instead of worrying about scarcity, you live in quiet confidence that all your needs are being met, often in ways you could not have planned. The world responds to the person who knows where he is going, who thinks expansively and acts with belief. Opportunities gravitate to the confident mind like iron to a magnet. Every great fortune began with a thought, a single idea held with conviction, nourished with faith, and acted upon with courage. That is the essence of abundance thinking. It is not about having more, it is about becoming more, seeing more, and giving more. It is the invisible seed from which all visible wealth grows, and it can be planted by anyone, at any age, in any circumstance, the moment they decide to think abundantly instead of scarcely. The act of paying yourself first is one of the simplest yet most powerful principles in the creation of wealth. It is a rule that separates those who build lasting prosperity from those who merely earn and spend without progress. Every dollar that passes through your hands carries with it a decision, to use it for temporary satisfaction or to set it aside for lasting security and growth. Most people work hard for their money but never make their money work for them. They pay everyone else first, the landlord, the bank, the government, the stores, and only after everyone else has been satisfied do they look to see what remains. Usually there is nothing left. But the one who pays himself first reverses this pattern. Before any bill is paid, before any purchase is made, a portion of every earning is set aside. That portion is sacred. It is not to be touched for convenience, only to be used for building a foundation of independence. This habit is not about the amount you save. It is about the discipline you establish. A person earning little but saving regularly is wealthier in principle than the one who earns much but saves nothing. Wealth is not measured by income but by retention. The discipline of paying yourself first creates a quiet confidence that grows with every deposit. It becomes proof that you are no longer a servant to money, but its master. Each time you set aside even a small sum, you send a message to your subconscious that you are preparing for more, that you can be trusted with greater responsibility. Money has a strange loyalty. It gravitates toward those who respect it and slips away from those who waste it. When you pay yourself first, you are not being selfish, you are being wise. You are ensuring that your future self will have options, freedom, and peace of mind. The world is full of people who have worked their entire lives and yet end in dependency because they never built this simple habit. They always meant to save later, when there would be more left over. But later never comes. The truth is that there is never anything left to save after spending. The only way to have savings is to make it the first and most important payment. Treat it like a bill to your future, one that must be paid without fail. Paying yourself first also shifts your relationship with money. It teaches you to live on what remains, and in doing so, you discover that you can live on less than you think. This practice strengthens character. It forces you to make conscious choices rather than impulsive ones. It teaches you to prioritize value over vanity and long-term gain over momentary pleasure. Each dollar saved represents a moment of self-mastery, a refusal to be ruled by desire. This simple habit can transform a lifetime of financial anxiety into one of calm assurance. There is a psychological power hidden in this rule. When you begin to see your savings grow, no matter how modestly something changes within you, you begin to feel capable, responsible, and in control. You start to see yourself as a person who can handle money wisely, and life responds to that belief. Opportunities begin to appear not by chance, but because your mindset has shifted from scarcity to stewardship. You think before you spend. You look for ways to make your money grow. You begin to ask not how much can I buy, but how much can I keep? That shift in thinking is the beginning of true financial maturity. Over time, the money you pay yourself begins to work for you. It starts as a servant, but eventually becomes a worker that never sleeps. The savings you build can be invested to generate more income, not through risk or speculation, but through steady, thoughtful growth. Each investment becomes another source of freedom, another layer of security. And the beauty of this rule is that it works at any income level and at any age. Whether you are earning a little or a lot, whether you are 20 or 60, the principle remains the same. The earlier you begin, the greater the compounding effect, but it is never too late to start. The key is consistency, not speed. There will always be temptations to break this rule. Emergencies, desires, unexpected expenses. They all call out for that reserved money. But the disciplined person guards it fiercely. He understands that true emergencies are rare, and that most financial pressures are the result of poor planning. By keeping that portion sacred, you build resilience. You prepare not only for wealth, but for stability, because you will have created a cushion against life's uncertainties. This sense of preparedness is one of the most powerful forms of peace a person can know. The simple act of paying yourself first also develops a deeper respect for the value of effort. When you work and immediately reward yourself by securing your financial future, you honor your labor. You recognize that the time and energy you exchange for money are precious and deserve to yield lasting benefit. Most people work only for today. The wise work also for tomorrow. Every deposit you make is a declaration that you are not working merely to survive, but to build something enduring. The habit also instills patience, the kind of patience that separates the wise from the impulsive. As your savings grow, you learn to wait, to watch, to plan. You begin to experience the quiet satisfaction of progress rather than the fleeting thrill of consumption. The possessions that once tempted you lose their hold because you have discovered something more valuable, the power of control, the peace of discipline, the dignity of self-respect. Over months and years, this simple practice compounds not only financially but emotionally. The confidence that comes from knowing you are building wealth brings clarity to other areas of life. Decisions become easier because you are no longer operating from fear or lack. You think long-term. You see beyond today's needs and tomorrow's possibilities. You walk differently, speak differently, and plan differently because you have established control over one of life's greatest forces, money. And it all begins with one small act of self-respect to pay yourself first every time, without exception. The third rule of wealth is control your spending, for no fortune, no matter how great, can withstand the pressure of uncontrolled desire. Earning money is only half the battle. The real test lies in how you manage what you earn. Countless people rise in income yet remain poor in peace because they allow their spending to grow as fast as their earnings. They mistake more money for more freedom, not realizing that freedom comes not from income but from restraint. The discipline to live below your means is one of the most powerful tools for building lasting prosperity. It requires quiet strength, patience, and wisdom, For in a world where spending is celebrated and saving is forgotten, the person who practices restraint walks a rarer, wiser path. When you control your spending, you begin to see money not as something to be spent, but as something to be directed. You become the commander of your finances rather than a servant to your whims. Each purchase, each expense, becomes a decision made consciously, not an impulse surrendered to emotion. You begin to separate needs from wants, and you realize how often we spend to impress, to comfort, or to fill a void rather than to fulfill a real necessity. Advertising, society, and even peer pressure constantly whisper that happiness can be bought, but this is an illusion. The more we chase fulfillment through possessions, the emptier we become. True wealth is not in what you own, but in what you can live without. To control your spending is not to live in denial or scarcity. It is to live with intention. It means that you spend thoughtfully, guided by priorities rather than impulses. The person who learns to say no to unnecessary expenses is the one who later gains the freedom to say yes to opportunities. Every unnecessary purchase is a withdrawal from your future. Every act of restraint is a deposit into your independence. When you live below your means, you create margin, a space in which your money can grow, your mind can rest, and your future can breathe. It is within this margin that wealth begins to compound quietly and steadily, far from the noise of indulgence. There is a quiet dignity in simplicity. The person who understands this does not measure success by what he displays, but by what he retains. He wears modest clothes, but carries a rich mind. He lives in a comfortable home, but not a burdensome one. He drives what he can afford without apology and invests the difference in things that appreciate rather than deteriorate. In time, his discipline sets him apart. While others live paycheck to paycheck, burdened by debt and anxious about tomorrow, he stands calm and secure because his choices have built stability beneath him. Control of spending is control of destiny. It is easy to be deceived by appearances. Many who seem wealthy are merely excellent spenders. Their possessions are polished, but their accounts are empty. Their lives look abundant, but their nights are filled with worry. They live to maintain an image rather than to build a foundation. This is the silent tragedy of modern living, the pursuit of appearance over substance. To control your spending is to reject that illusion. It is to live for quiet prosperity rather than loud pretense. It is to understand that wealth whispers while debt shouts. The truly prosperous do not need to announce their success. Their peace of mind is their statement. Self-control in spending is more than a financial act. It is a moral discipline. It strengthens character in the same way that exercise strengthens the body. Each time you resist unnecessary spending, you train your will. You prove to yourself that you are guided by purpose, not impulse. You begin to see money as a servant of your vision rather than a master of your mood. Every dollar you save becomes a unit of freedom. Freedom to choose, to wait, to invest, to give. This sense of control builds confidence, and confidence builds momentum. Over time, it transforms not just your finances, but your entire approach to life. The person who controls spending also becomes immune to the illusion of status. They no longer need to purchase validation from others. They understand that possessions do not increase worth, they only reflect taste. Real worth is measured by stability, peace, and the ability to give without fear. When you have control over your desires, you stop living by comparison. You stop chasing trends that lose value the moment you acquire them. You realize that the greatest luxury is not ownership, but freedom. The freedom from debt, from worry, from dependence on circumstances. Controlling spending also requires awareness of the hindrances that push us to consume. Society has perfected the art of distraction, endless sales, limited offers, new models, and shiny upgrades designed to create urgency. But urgency is the enemy of wisdom. The person who pauses before purchasing gains time to think, to question, to consider. That pause is power. It is in that small space of decision that your financial life is shaped. The wise learn to ask, do I truly need this? Does it serve my purpose? Will it add to my long-term peace or only my short-term pleasure? Most of the time, the honest answer will lead to restraint, and restraint will lead to wealth. The act of controlling spending builds a kind of invisible capital far beyond money. It builds discipline, patience, foresight, and peace of mind. You begin to enjoy what you already have instead of constantly reaching for more. Gratitude replaces greed. Simplicity replaces anxiety. You discover that enough is not a limitation but a liberation. The mind that is content is richer than the wallet that is full. This shift in attitude is what allows money to accumulate naturally, because it is no longer leaking through the cracks of impulsive decisions. As your spending habits come under control, your confidence grows. You begin to look ahead rather than behind. You stop reacting to financial pressures and start anticipating them. You find that your savings rise effortlessly, your debt disappears gradually, and your sense of security deepens. Each act of financial restraint becomes a building block of independence. The person who learns to manage small amounts with care becomes capable of managing great amounts with wisdom. Wealth does not come from earning more, but from learning more about how to handle what you earn. The quiet strength of controlled spending is not glamorous, but it is the cornerstone of every enduring fortune and the foundation of every peaceful mind. To build wealth that lasts, one must learn the art of investing in growth. Not merely the growth of money, but the growth of mind, skill, and understanding. The greatest investment you will ever make is not in stocks, property, or business, but in yourself. The human mind is the only asset that can create limitless value. When you increase your capacity to think, to learn, to adapt, and to solve problems, you raise the ceiling on everything else you can achieve. Every new skill acquired, every idea refined, every lesson learned multiplies your earning potential in ways that no market fluctuation can undo. Most people seek to improve their circumstances without improving themselves, but it never works. Outer change always follows inner growth. When you become more capable, more creative, and more valuable, the world naturally rewards you with opportunity. Investing in growth begins with curiosity. The desire to know more, to understand more, to expand beyond what is familiar, is the spark that ignites progress. Each day spent learning is a step toward greater freedom, because knowledge compounds in the same way money does. A book read today, a skill practiced consistently, a concept mastered deeply. These small investments of effort gather momentum over time, yield results far beyond their initial cost. The person who stops learning at any age begins to decline, not because the world becomes harder, but because they have stopped expanding to meet it. Growth requires humility, the willingness to admit you don't know everything, and the courage to explore what you don't yet understand. The most successful individuals are perpetual students of life. There is also the growth that comes from experience. Not every lesson is learned from success. Many of the most valuable ones come from mistakes. Failure, when viewed correctly, is not a loss but tuition. Each setback is a teacher revealing something you did not yet know about yourself, your work, or the world. The wise person invests in these experiences by reflecting on them, extracting their meaning, and applying what is learned. Those who grow quickly are not those who avoid mistakes, but those who learn rapidly from them. They turn disappointment into direction, confusion into clarity, and challenge into strength. Investing in growth means choosing long-term gain over short-term comfort. It is easy to spend time and money on entertainment, but far wiser to spend them on education. It is tempting to look for shortcuts, but growth rarely travels that road. The most rewarding paths are often the slow ones. The hours spent mastering a craft, the late nights studying, the quiet moments thinking deeply about how to improve. Growth is not an event but a process, and those who honor that process reap the benefits that others envy but seldom earn. The difference between the ordinary and the exceptional lies in the willingness to keep improving when no one is watching. When you invest in yourself, you become more valuable to the world. The marketplace pays for value, and value comes from ability. The more you can contribute, the more you can earn. The more effectively you can solve problems, the more indispensable you become. The world is constantly changing, and those who do not grow become outdated. But those who keep learning stay relevant, adaptable, and confident in the face of change. They are not afraid of the future because they are prepared to meet it. The person who invests in growth never fears uncertainty, for they know they can create new opportunities wherever they go. Growth is not limited to knowledge or skill, it also includes character. A growing person refines their patience, integrity, discipline, and resilience. These qualities cannot be bought, yet they determine the direction of one's life more than any external condition. Money earned without character soon disappears, but money built on wisdom and principle endures. Investing in growth means cultivating both intelligence and integrity, developing the mind to think clearly and the will to act rightly. The combination of these two forms of growth is what creates lasting prosperity. To invest in growth also means to invest in relationships and environments that elevate you. The people you surround yourself with influence your standards, your habits, and your expectations. If you spend time among those who are stagnant, you will find it difficult to rise. But when you associate with those who think expansively, who challenge you to grow, who live with discipline and vision, their energy becomes contagious. Growth thrives in an atmosphere of encouragement, challenge, and possibility. Seek mentors, read the words of great thinkers, listen to those who have walked the path you wish to follow. Every influence you allow into your mind is an investment. It will either compound your progress or drain your potential. Choose your influences with care. Financial growth follows personal growth. When you become more valuable, your time becomes more valuable. Your ideas become more profitable. Your reputation becomes a magnet for opportunity. Investing in growth creates a kind of invisible equity that multiplies with every new skill and every wise decision. A dollar invested in knowledge often returns 100-fold in future income, for it increases the quality of the decisions that create wealth. The person who knows how to think, how to learn, and how to adapt is never poor for long. There is another kind of growth that few consider: spiritual and emotional growth. The ability to manage emotions, to stay calm in adversity, to lead with purpose and compassion, is an investment that pays dividends in every area of life. Wealth built without peace is a burden, but wealth built alongside inner growth becomes a blessing. The person who invests in balance, gratitude, and understanding grows richer not only in assets but in fulfillment. They do not measure success by accumulation alone, but by alignment, the harmony between who they are and what they do. Every moment spent improving yourself, every book you read, every skill you refine, every idea you test becomes part of your foundation. It builds a wealth that cannot be taken away because it exists within you. Fortunes can be lost, markets can fall, circumstances can change, but the person who has invested in their own growth carries the source of prosperity wherever they go. To invest in growth is to invest in permanence, to plant seeds of wisdom, skill, and understanding that will bear fruit for a lifetime. Debt is one of the most subtle and dangerous traps that can quietly destroy a person's freedom. It promises comfort, but delivers captivity. It offers the illusion of progress while pulling you steadily backward. To avoid debt is to protect your independence, your peace of mind, and your future. The greatest mistake many people make is trading tomorrow's security for today's pleasure. They borrow to impress, to indulge, to escape, not realizing that every borrowed dollar carries with it a hidden chain. Debt is not just a financial burden, it is a psychological one. It weighs on the mind, steals sleep, and limits choices. The person in debt wakes each morning already owing a portion of their day to someone else. No matter how much they earn, their money is not truly their own until they are free from what they owe. To live without debt is to live with power. Every decision you make is your own. Every hour of your work benefits you directly. The absence of debt creates clarity. You see life as it is, not through the fog of obligation. The borrower, on the other hand, lives under constant pressure, often justifying poor decisions by saying there is no other choice. Yet the truth is that choice disappears only when we surrender it. Debt is a voluntary servitude, and it begins with a simple temptation, the desire to have now what patience would earn later. The wise understand that anything acquired before it is earned will cost far more in the end. Avoiding debt does not mean avoiding ambition. It means exercising wisdom in pursuit of it. The world often confuses debt with leverage, but there is a difference between using resources strategically and living beyond your means. Debt used for consumption, for clothes, gadgets, cars, or fleeting luxuries, weakens the foundation of your future. These things lose value the moment they are obtained, yet the obligation to pay for them remains. When you live on borrowed money, you are spending future income before it has been earned, mortgaging the days ahead for the sake of appearances today. Freedom cannot coexist with that kind of dependence. There is a deceptive comfort in borrowing, because it feels like advancement. Debt allows one to live as if wealthy for a brief time, but it always demands repayment with interest. Interest not only in money, but in peace, energy, and opportunity. Every dollar spent on interest is a dollar that could have been saved, invested, or used to create real growth. Over time, those who rely on credit become trapped in a cycle of working harder just to stay even. They chase income not for progress, but for survival. The stress of debt turns ambition into anxiety and purpose into pressure. The true cost of debt is far higher than most ever calculate. To avoid debt requires self-control, patience, and foresight. It is a test of character more than calculation. It demands that you delay gratification, that you wait for what you desire until you can afford it without sacrifice to your peace of mind. Each time you resist the impulse to borrow, you build strength. You prove to yourself that you are in control of your desires, not controlled by them. This quiet strength is the foundation of financial maturity. It is not the act of denial, but the art of discipline. Choosing the long-term reward of freedom over the short-term pleasure of indulgence. Those who remain free of debt enjoy a profound sense of peace. They know that their earnings belong entirely to them, that no creditor has claim over their time or energy. This freedom breeds confidence, and confidence attracts opportunity. When you are not desperate to meet obligations, you can make better decisions. You can take risks based on wisdom, not necessity. You can act from a position of strength rather than fear. The absence of debt is more than the absence of worry. It is the presence of choice. It gives you the ability to say no when something does not align with your values, to walk away when a deal does not feel right, to live life on your own terms. The person who avoids debt also learns to value simplicity. They understand that happiness is not found in possession, but in peace. They no longer need to buy to feel worthy, because they have discovered the quiet satisfaction of control. They measure wealth not by how much they can spend, but by how little they need to live well. Their contentment becomes their wealth. This mindset turns ordinary earnings into extraordinary freedom, because money no longer leaks away in the service of debt. Every dollar saved or invested grows, while every dollar borrowed decays. The compounding effect of discipline eventually outweighs the false comfort of indulgence. In avoiding debt, one also learns to plan ahead. Emergencies do not strike as crises, but as tests already prepared for. The person who saves and budgets does not need to borrow when the unexpected arrives, because they have built a cushion. This foresight transforms worry into readiness. It is not luck but preparation that separates those who struggle from those who stand steady in times of change. Debt is often a symptom of unpreparedness, of living without plan or vision. When you live with foresight, you remove the need to borrow. You replace reaction with intention. There are those who argue that some debt is necessary, that it is impossible to live without it. But most of the time what they mean is that it is difficult, not impossible. It requires sacrifice, planning, and patience, qualities that few cultivate. Yet those same qualities are the very ones that create lasting success. Freedom always demands effort. The person who disciplines themselves to earn before spending, to save before consuming, to build before displaying, walks a path that few choose but many admire. To avoid debt is not to reject progress, but to choose peace. It is to build wealth on solid ground rather than shifting sand. It is to understand that freedom, not comfort, is the true measure of prosperity. The moment you owe nothing to anyone, you are rich in the most valuable currency of all, control over your own life. Money is a tool, nothing more and nothing less. Its value depends entirely on the purpose it serves. When used wisely, it becomes a force for creation, security, and freedom. When used foolishly, it becomes a source of vanity, anxiety, and destruction. To let money serve purpose rather than ego is to understand its true nature. Money by itself holds no moral quality. It amplifies what already exists within the person who holds it. In the hands of the wise, it multiplies good. In the hands of the proud, it magnifies emptiness. The relationship a person has with money reveals their relationship with themselves, whether they seek to use it to create, to contribute, or merely to prove. When money serves purpose, it becomes a silent ally in the pursuit of a meaningful life. It allows you to direct energy where it matters most, toward growth, contribution, and peace. Every dollar then becomes a decision, a declaration of what you value. You no longer spend mindlessly or hoard fearfully, because you understand that money is simply a tool for exchange, not a measure of worth. The person who lets money serve their purpose uses it to build stability, to support loved ones, to expand their learning, to create opportunities for others. They are guided by intention rather than impulse. In contrast, the one ruled by ego uses money as a mirror for insecurity, seeking validation in possession, status, and comparison. They chase symbols of success rather than the substance of it, and in doing so, they lose both peace and direction. To let money serve purpose requires clarity about what truly matters. Without clear purpose, money becomes aimless. It flows to whatever desire shouts the loudest, and soon there is nothing left for what is meaningful. Purpose acts as a compass. It gives every financial decision direction. When you know why you earn, save, and invest, your relationship with money changes. You stop asking, "What can I buy?" and begin asking, "What can I build?" You stop measuring wealth by accumulation and start measuring it by impact. The same amount of money can either inflate the ego or elevate the soul. The difference lies in the intention behind its use. There is a quiet strength in those who treat money as a servant rather than a master. They understand that financial success, while important, is only one dimension of a full life. They do not measure people by income or possessions, but by integrity, character, and contribution. They know that wealth without purpose soon turns hollow, because possessions can never satisfy the deeper needs of the spirit. True prosperity comes from alignment when what you earn, what you do, and what you value all move in the same direction. When purpose leads and money follows, peace is the natural result. When ego leads and purpose follows, chaos soon arrives. Money that serves purpose creates freedom. It allows you to live without fear of scarcity and without dependence on others. It gives you the ability to choose your work, to spend your time meaningfully, and to support causes that outlive you. Purpose turns money into a tool for expansion. Expansion of thought, of influence, of goodness. It transforms financial goals into spiritual ones. You no longer strive merely to have more, but to become more. Every act of earning becomes an act of expression. Every act of saving becomes an act of foresight. Every act of giving becomes an act of gratitude. This perspective brings balance. It removes the constant tension between wanting and having because it roots both in meaning. The ego, however, always demands more. It thrives on comparison, and comparison is endless. No matter how much one acquires, there is always someone with more. The ego measures success in applause, while purpose measures it in fulfillment. The ego spends to be seen, purpose spends to make a difference. The ego fears losing, purpose focuses on giving. The ego is restless, purpose is calm. To let money serve purpose is to silence that endless chase, to find satisfaction not in accumulation but in alignment. It is the quiet realization that wealth is not about what you hold in your hands, but about what you hold in your heart. When money serves purpose, generosity becomes natural, giving ceases to feel like loss and becomes a form of gratitude. The person who uses money purposefully understands that abundance grows through circulation, not stagnation. What you give with intention returns multiplied, not always in currency, but in peace, goodwill, and opportunity. You begin to see money as energy flowing through you, not merely to you. The miser clings to it and grows anxious. The generous use it and grow peaceful. In giving, you affirm that you have enough, that you are enough. This mindset attracts more of what you appreciate and frees you from the grip of fear. Letting money serve purpose also means aligning your spending and earning with your principles. The way you make money is as important as what you do with it. When your income comes from service, value, and integrity, it carries a clean energy that supports your well-being. But money earned through compromise, deceit, or greed brings it a weight that no luxury can remove. Purposeful wealth is not built on exploitation or excess. It is built on contribution and creation. The satisfaction that comes from knowing you have earned honestly, saved wisely, and given generously is far greater than any material display of success. A purposeful relationship with money also transforms ambition. You still strive to grow, but not out of greed. You seek expansion because growth allows greater service, greater creation, greater reach. You no longer chase success for its own sake, but for the good it allows you to do. Purposeful ambition is steady and sustainable. It builds wealth that endures because it is rooted in meaning. The ego's ambition burns hot and fast, exhausting itself in pursuit of more. Purpose's ambition burns quietly and endlessly, fueled by vision and service. The person who lets money serve purpose moves through life with quiet confidence. They no longer fear loss because they know that meaning cannot be taken away. They no longer depend on appearance because their worth is not for sale. Their wealth becomes invisible yet unmistakable. Found in their peace, their freedom, and the good their resources create, money becomes a reflection of inner order, not a substitute for it. It flows naturally, doing what it was meant to do, to serve, to build, to support, to expand life rather than shrink it.